Welcome to this next lesson, the 10th lesson related to the project management principles. We will be discussing the 10th principle, which is optimize risk responses. Risk is very important in project management because we have a lot of uncertain new things that we are doing. So risk is a very important element when we consider project management principles. So let's have a look at risk. When we talk about risk, we have to continually evaluate exposure to risk, both threats and opportunities, to maximize positive impacts and minimize negative impacts to the project and its outcomes. Now, when we look at risk, we have individual and overall risks that can have an impact on the project outcome. Not only the overall risks, not only the individual risks, but both of them have an impact or can have an impact on the project outcome. When we look at risks in project management, we consider risks to be positive or negative. In many cases, when we talk about risks, people only consider the things that can go wrong. In project management, risks can either have a positive or a negative effect on one of the project's outcomes or one of the project's elements, and if it has nothing to do with cost, time, scope, or quality for this project, then it's not a risk related to the project. Now, when we look at organizations and stakeholders, they may have different attitudes, appetite and thresholds, and risk attitudes. So basically, it depends on the people, how they deal with risk. Some people are used to take a lot of risks, are used to working with risks, while other people do not want to have risks. Their threshold is low. We have to understand how that is in the case of the organizations you are dealing with and the case of your project. Risk responses should be appropriate to the significance of the risk. We're not going to invest 10,000 euro for the risk of €1. We have to be cost effective. We have to be realistic within the scope of the project. We have to have agreement between the relevant stakeholders, and it is always owned by a responsible person. Now, when we look at defining risks in project management, when we look at a risk, we say a risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, can have a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives. Project teams are engaged in risk management during the entire life of the project. The main goal is to maximize opportunities and minimize threats. When we look at risks and stakeholders like people or organizations may have a different attitude towards risk. Unfortunately, there are still organizations that do not do any risk management. We can distinguish between risk takers and risk avoiders when we consider risk management. Risk does not mean that we will add risk, but that we will take measures to react quickly. I remember a meeting I had when we were doing a project within AT&T, and our customer, we had a migration from France Telecom to AT&T network services, and we had people talking about the project, and somebody mentioned risk, and the reaction of the customer was immediately, we don't want you to add risk. And we had to explain to the customer, we are not adding risk. We're looking at conditions that may have an impact, may have a negative impact, and we want to find solutions to deal with it. So if we have when we have something that is going wrong, we may have a possibility to work around to find a solution so that the project is in fact safe, that there is no problem for the continuity of the services. When we look at the team and identifying risk responses, when we look at reducing the impact of project threats and increasing the opportunities, it can be done by effective and appropriate risk responses. First of all, we have on time and proportionate to the severity of the risk. Second, cost effective. Third, following the stakeholders' agreement and instructions. And finally, we have some people who are assigned responsible owners of the risk or the risk in general. So this is the end of the project management principle related to risk management. In the next lesson, we are going to look at the 11th principle, which is embrace adaptability and resilience. That's it for this lesson. Only 2 principles to follow after this presentation. Anyway, we're coming to the end of this first part of the course, which is about the standard for project management. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next videos. Bye-bye.